One of the biggest problems that we have with psychedelics medicines is that they're not very accessible. I mean, of course, there's a legality issue, and, I'll leave that for another podcast and another day.
Yeah, totally.
But if we look at like the state of Colorado, for instance, you can go to the local shop and buy yourself 5 many grams of psilocybin mushrooms and go home and take them perfectly legally. So, getting hold of these substances is not so crazy anymore. So once you get past that, then you've got to think about, well, the cost of going to a retreat or paying somebody to come and going through all the preparation and the therapy runs very quickly into the thousands of dollars. And often, we're talking about treating people who've got mental health disorders, who maybe do not have that kind of money that they can spend, particularly with women, right? Often we're running families and households, and it's usually us who is in charge of the family finances. Well, how are you going to feel spending a few £1,000s of the family finances for you to go on a psychedelic retreat, right? But you want to access this, and you want some help. And so I think it can be really very useful to try and reduce those costs. So when we think about what is, good preparation for psychedelic science, first of all, it's just the kind of finding out, what is the experience like? How should I prepare? What are some breathing practices I can use? All of that stuff is very, very doable on AI. When we think about intention setting for a ceremony, a lot of us who've never really opened up to anyone or never really, and that's one of the things with psychedelic medicines. There's no escaping what is your real trauma, what is the real thing that is giving you the rub. And sometimes when we sit down with therapists and we sit down with other human beings, our ego is with us, right? And our ego it feels shame and it feels embarrassment. And so being genuinely honest about those experiences can be difficult. Whereas with an AI, we can talk about our intentions. We can perhaps talk about our things that we wouldn't be comfortable talking with another human being about, and be able to access that very cheaply in that process. And so I think in that preparation, and then again on the backside, on the integration where we want to come out, talk about what happened, it can be wonderful. Now, we'll caveat all of that with the idea that AI has been built to please us. It is built to be our friend. It is built to give us the answer we have asked for.
Okay,
now, when you go to a therapist,
I see where you're going. Yeah.
When you go to a therapist, sometimes they tell you things that aren't so comfortable to hear. Sometimes they propose things which are not the outcome that we want from it. And so we must always be mindful when we're speaking with an AI that it's very likely to just be supporting a lot of our beliefs in that way, and perhaps not helping us to interrogate some of those darker parts. And there are ways around that, of course. You can prompt AI to say, I want you to act as this, and, please don't just tell me what I want. And so it's always advisable to try and use that. And there's some great prompts out there that are available to help you. But, what you're really asking me is, can it sit with you while you're actually under the influence? Now, we have incredible chat functions on these AIs, right? I use it all the time when I'm in the park, walking my dog, walking around, chatting to AI. And that's incredible. And it certainly could be used with somebody during a psychedelic experience. Now, I would say to you, safety is everything. Safety must be first and foremost. If you're a very experienced psychedelic user, if this is something you've done before, if solo tripping on your own is something that you feel comfortable doing and you're willing to take that risk, then yes, maybe you could use AI in that way. And like I say, you probably want to set up the chat function, because when you take these substances, it alters your perception such that a screen typing and reading a screen would not be the same as when you were sober, put it that way.
So you're saying audio chat as in like voice, like you're having a conversation.
Yeah. So you want to be chatting to it and it's chatting back to you, because typing and stuff is not so easy. And you probably want to think about, doing doses that are suitable for that. So not super high hero doses where you are, having full ego death. And because during those times, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to kind of maintain kind of focus and control enough to be able to communicate with the AI. And what you don't want is to get to a point where you're super high, the AI is now, I don't know, it's dropped off, or it's not talking to you, or it's saying the wrong things, and you've not got a backup plan of a playlist you can put on or whatever, and you could end up going into a bad trip. But if you're not experienced with psychedelics or anything, then, I would not recommend doing doses alone for your first time. I think within that's where, AI is wonderful and it's going to take over lots of people's jobs. But if we think about the jobs it won't be taking over, it's the nurses, it's the people who are going to be there and have to physically hold you and support you through these times. And psychedelics is no different. There is a huge requirement for human to human connection within psychedelic experiences that I don't think we can overcome using just AI. I think it can support, as I say, better preparation, better integration, cheaper ways of delivering much more comprehensive programs. It certainly could help us in the experience in more lower doses when we can speak to it and communicate. But in terms of feeling safe and feeling secure, and feeling safe is one of the fundamental things about doing psychedelics. You must feel safe at the time of taking them. That's where other human beings just cannot be beaten, right?